Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Broku. Today we're doing a review of Black Clover Chapter 324 titled Kids Playground. I'll give a review, a summary, and analysis of this chapter, and you can read it for free below. Link in the description on Viz with the official translations. If you guys end up enjoying this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. You can turn notifications, and you can also follow me on Twitter, linked below. With that being said, let's get into this brief summary of this chapter. Now, usually I go through and kind of do a complete rehash of the chapter before giving my review and my analysis, but I'm going to give a very brief summary for this one, just because, for one, I mean, you guys can just read the chapter for free anyways, and for two, I got to get my ass to work after this, so I got to do this review a bit quicker than normal. Zora's traps, they do work against Lucifero, but they are not enough to defeat him, as Yami and Noct have to come in and join the battle. They both go monozone, full release, and combine their shadow magic with dark magic, and they create Kids Playground. With this spell, they're able to fight Lucifero at a much better rate and actually damage him, which shocks both Lucifero and Adramelech. This makes Lucifero acknowledge the duo and actually the other humans of Asta and Yuno as well. Realizing that they can actually defeat him, they have the potential to do so. And so he says he's going to go full power. He's going to kill all of them. Their parents, their siblings, their friends, their neighbors, all of humanity will be destroyed by the wrath of Lucifero. And he will finally go to his full power in his half-manifested state. And we get the final showdown coming up, which is Yami and Noct pairing with Asta and Yuno. Now, overall, this chapter was really good. It was great to finally see Yami and Noct fight together and how their magic works perfectly together, and it was actually a very cool one. Already, the Kids Playground combo spell between the two is one of my favorite spells in all of Black Clover, and it's incredibly powerful. I mean, you can see from the fact that they actually damaged Lucifero. But there's a few things I do want to bring up and talk about a bit more in depth, and that is that Lucifero notes Zora's grimoire, and if we just look at how he says it, it is very interesting. Right after, Zora essentially takes all of the attack from Lucifero and doubles it back at the Devil King. Lucifero essentially parries it and actually reverts damage back to Zora, which essentially means that Lucifero took a punch with double his original magic power and countered it back at him, which means he likely increased his power twofold to do this. But if you look at this here, he looks at Zora's grimoire and he's like, the grimoire, blasted thing. Now, he has fought other people with grimoires in this fight, yet he only takes this weird attention to Zora's. Now, we've always had this weird interest in Zora's grimoire because he has ash magic, but there are runes and arrays on his grimoire, which is interesting because runes and arrays are a learned technique. They are not innate or natural, really, in any way that we know of. So what this might mean is that Zora has a special inborn talent because his grimoire was born with runes and arrays, and that's why he can counter the Lucifero Devil King. Or maybe he actually used the runes and arrays to put that over his grimoire, and that is why he is able to use this trap magic so well. But I don't know, that's going to have to be a mystery, but I think that this really points out that there's more to Zora's grimoire and more to Zora himself than what we already know. And one of the things I kind of talked about is Lucifero, he went against the punch that was doubled by Zora, and not only did he punch it back, but he actually did more damage to Zora than himself, which means that he would have to have had doubled or more than doubled his own power to overpower the double powered attack of his original strike, which means that, you know, full power Lucifero here, he already doubled up on his power in the beginning of this fight between Zora, right after he hits Zora, he doubles his punch to counter it. So then he transforms on top of that to face Noct, Yami, and Asta and Yuno. So this shows that, you know, Lucifero, we know how strong he was basically from his worm state. Then we have his, you know, regular form, and he's been getting stronger, he's been increasing his power more and more throughout the fight. Then he doubles his power to reverse his attack from Zora, and then now he transforms to essentially his full form, where he has these weird, pointed shoulders. He looks a bit different, so this is his full power. So yeah, he's been way stronger than from when he started the fight, and even when he started the fight, he was already essentially the top of the verse. With this fight coming up, you have Yami, Noct, Asta, and Yuno. Are they going to be able to win? And this will actually be, I think, an interesting fight, but I think there still needs to be more. I think Zora will probably play more of a role in this fight too, as, I mean, I don't think that Tabata's gonna have Lucifero looking at Zora's Grimoire in a weird way and then just have nothing to do with it for this fight. The thing is that we have to remember here that Yami and Noct both just went Monozone, full release, and did their combo spell just to barely damage this Lucifero. And yet, he just went to his full power, which is likely more than a double increase, because if he could double his power without changing his form, then when he actually changes his form, it's probably more than a double power increase, and just adding Asta, might not be enough. Now, the thing to note here is that Asta was just healed by Sekret, so he could probably transform into his Devil Union form pretty soon. He did not do it at the end of the chapter, but it's something he might do, and he might just not go into it because he might need to transform at the right time, because remember, the Devil Union has a timer. So I also think that Noelle will come and join this fight. So it could be, the light triad of Asta, and Noelle. And then maybe William could potentially join this fight, though that's something I don't really think will happen. A lot of fans want that, but he did just give all of his magic into his blade, the Mistletoe blade, for Yami to use. So I don't think William will actually come in. I think that Zora will play a part of this fight, and then Noelle will come with her Saint Stage magic. Hopefully, the Undine has maybe refueled her mana stores a bit so that Noelle can use her Saint Stage Valkyrie form. And an interesting point is that now we're still with nothing for Adramelech. Adramelech still is, I guess, enjoying this fight, even though they were surprised that Yami and Noct were able to damage Lucifero, but still, they do nothing. So that's something I'm interested to see where Adramelech lies here, when they will join the battle, and what their magic power will be, what their magic type will be. One thing to note is that there might be an error in the official translation, as in the unofficial translations, they called this panel here Monozone Full Release, which makes a lot of sense because that's a thing that we've had multiple times in the series, and yet they call this in the official translations Monozone at Full Power, which it's probably the same thing. I think it's just the translation was done differently here. It's just weird. I think that Monozone Full Release sounds better and just makes it sound more final, that this is the full release of their power, like all of their powers coming out. And it makes sense because you have Guy Modello saying, this incredible power, Noct, it's surging through me, which would have to be like a Monozone Full Release, which is exactly how I predicted Noct would be way stronger at like months ago, because Noct uses double Devil Union against Lilith and Nama, but he did not use Monozone, and now he's using Monozone with full release on top of it, and of course, using the combo spell here. And the reason why this spell worked is because you have to remember here is that essentially Noct and Yami would be both arcane, because Noct uses devil magic and dark magic is already arcane, and Yami is also using the world tree magic, which is also arcane. But also, they're using Monozone Full Release, Yami is anti-devil mana, and their dark shadows essentially power each other, as it says, dark spreads shadows and shadows create darkness. So that is why they essentially have this infinite synergy as stated, and furthermore, they are able to make clones of each other, as if, remember that one of Guy Model's abilities is the shadow clones, and this actually happens here, as you have clones of Yami and Noct fighting Lucifero. So yes, this is not just, Yami and Noct fighting Lucifero. This is essentially making shadow clones of themselves. And remember when Asta's fighting, they were essentially equal to the power of Noct, so that is why they were able to overpower Lucifero. And this is something that I'll probably make an updated theory on soon, and that's Noct's shadow magic, is that this spell made it look a lot like the Shadow Palace, and this is something I've talked about it for a while now, is did his ancestors create the Shadow Palace, or did they have access to it when they made the pact with the elves? Because remember, the Shadow Palace would stay in the human kingdom, and the elves would have the magic stones with the Apostles of Sephiroth, but you would need both, essentially a human side and an elven side, to access this forbidden place. So was it Noct's ancestors who used shadow magic to create or use the Shadow Palace? That's something that will probably be revealed at some point. I do believe that is a very likely possibility. But that being said, guys, let me know your thoughts of this chapter down below, as well as this chapter review of this video. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, comment your thoughts, and subscribe. Hope you guys all have an amazing day. Plus...